intuition is not another dimension of perception, but just another dimension of computing. If you have the same amount of information within you, if you go logically, there may be 10 steps to get to a place. Intuition means you don't take the 10 steps, you just jump to the 10th step. But today modern education systems, 100% stomping on the intuitive dimension, only the logical is developed. Anything intuitive is dismissed off as mumbo-jumbo. For everything you have to think through. What your grandmothers just knew, today you have to do $1 billion research to find the same thing. When you have to think through everything, and everything seems to have multiple steps, now life becomes stressful. If one wants to be successful beyond a certain point, there are some things where you should be able to jump the steps and arrive at it. Still the same information, still the same stuff. It is just that you don't have to walk through that many steps every time.
So intuition is just that your computing is in such a way that you don't go through the logical process every time. This is definitely a more sensible way of using your intelligence, because if every time you have to go through a logical process all the time, you will naturally freak with small aspects of life. So intuitive means your computing is skipping the logical steps and arriving at the answer, which is definitely a more sensible way to conduct your life. So your intuition, what kind of intuition do you have? People are just doing guesswork all the time and thinking it's intuition. No, if you want to develop intuition, first thing is you must learn how to simply sit here fully alert and not thinking about anything. If you know how to simply sit here, alert but unthinking, oh, how is that possible? I'm asking, how is it possible for you to think when so much is happening out here? If you pay attention, you will not think. So the most important aspect of life is your attention, not your thoughts. If your attention is on all the time, without any kind of judgments about what is this, what is that, simply attention, not thought, just attention, you will naturally become intuitive.
So, in the yogic system, the significance of the intuition is as important as the logical. So bringing a balance between Ida and Pingala is a very important part of living a balanced life. Being able to conduct yourself through complex situations with ease comes only when the intuitive dimension of your mind is sufficiently evolved and developed. Otherwise, small things will freak you because for everything there are multiple steps.
Never try to be intuitive. Logic is dependable, isn't it? There are moments when there is certain clarity which has no logical explanation. At that time, it's okay, but you never try to be intuitive. If you try to be intuitive, your logical mind will become deceptive and come to all kinds of stupid decisions. You'll get suddenly guidance, voices from the heaven, all kinds of voices people are hearing. Logic is dependable, go by it, at least you won't make a fool of yourself. There are moments when there is simple clarity, for which there is no confusion, it's 100% clear, then you go ahead. But now, whether you take a logical decision or an intuitive decision, people around you will always protest if it doesn't agree with them, isn't it so? Isn't it so? It's not because you're intuitive they're protesting. If you take a logical decision also they protest, if you take an intuitive decision also they protest if it's not in line with what they want. So that's a consequence that everybody has to face no matter what kind of decision you take, isn't it? That's something we must learn to handle, the social situation around us.
There is a story about Swami Vivekananda, the first yogi to come to the US and the Europe more than 100 years ago. While he was in Germany, he stayed with a well-known scholar. They happened to be conversing about a book on the table, when the scholar was speaking very highly about, and Vivekananda said, "Give me the book for an hour. Let me see what is in it." The scholar felt insulted. "For an hour? What will you know in 1 hour? I have been reading this book for weeks and I am not getting anywhere. And above all, it is in German. You don't know German. How will you read it?" Vivekananda said, "Give it to me for 1 hour." Vivekananda took the book, placed it between his hands and sat there for an hour. Then he gave back the book and said, "There is nothing worthwhile in this book." The scholar thought this was arrogance. Vivekananda did not even open the book. It was in a language he did not know, and he made a judgment about it. So he told Vivekananda, "This is nonsense." Then Vivekananda said, "Ask me anything about the book." The man said, "Okay, what is on page 663? Vivekananda repeated it verbatim. He couldn't believe it. So he asked, "How is that you know?" Vivekananda said, "This is why I am Vivekananda." Viveka means perception. His birth name is Naren, but his guru named him Vivekananda because he of such perception. How did he arrive at this? Vivekananda is not reading the book. He is reading the one who wrote the book. He is reading the mind of the person who wrote the book itself. That is not intuition. This is a completely different dimension of perception. Everything that a human being does is happening from the information that he or she has gathered. Information does not mean you read a book or a newspaper. The five senses constantly gather information through what you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So there is a phenomenal amount of information that you are not conscious of. Just look at the fact that you can walk. Walking is so simple, but if you analyze the process of what it takes to walk on two legs, it is an extremely complex process. How the weight shifts, what happens in the muscles, and how the whole thing happens is a phenomenally complex process. If you have to logically understand this, you will go crazy. You will not get it, even if you study it for a long time. That's how complex it is. But all of us can walk. We know this intuitively, not intellectually. If you go intellectually, for every little things that you do, there are 10 steps. Instead of going through these 10 steps from 1 to 10, if you jump, that is what is intuition. But intuition is not a different dimension of perception. It is just a different dimension of computing. You are computing it faster, but still, it is the same information.